I'm Janmeet from IIT-Ropar. Want to know how will a Buddha look like in today's world? Unlike before, he cannot walk barefooted as the temperature now is more than 50 degrees centigrade. He cannot go to jungle as we have none. He cannot beg as that will be taken offensive by the society. He cannot roam from village to village as people may tout him as a robber and put to jail. He will be called a misogynist if he says anything on women, even though he might be the most compassionate being. He will not find an Ashoka or other prominent rulers, businessmen, who will patronage in spreading his message, as we mostly find today's powerful people corrupted and engrossed with personal gains. Sir, so how will today's Buddha look like?
How did the Buddha look then? Hmm? Who is the Buddha? Let's try to understand with the story of Gautam Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha, as we call him. So, who was he? Let's look at his central characteristics. One, someone who is well versed in the knowledge of his time. Buddha had deep scriptural knowledge. He was born in a Hindu Kshatriya family. He is a prince. And ever since his childhood, he was quite talented. So, one thing about him is that he was quite well read. Second thing is, he was deeply interested in knowing the depths of life. He did not want to remain merely at the superficial levels. So he would observe a lot, he would think a lot. So you remember the very famous incidents when he is going to the youth festival being celebrated in the kingdom, and he comes across an old man, a sick man, and finally a dead man. Now, these are not very rare occurrences. These are not extremely special sights. We know of oldness and sickness at least, even if we do not see dead bodies every day. But the Buddha looks at those sights and is deeply perturbed. He has a certain curiosity. He does not live in the feeling that I already know. So he attentively watches and he asks his charioteer, "What is this all about? What is happening? Does it happen with all? Am I going to die one day?" And the charioteer is a nice, honest fellow. He says, "Yes, you too will get old, fall sick, and die one day." So that's the thing about him. He wants to understand life. We are going into the central characteristics of the Buddha. Even today's Buddha would have these characteristics. Next is compassion. So again, that old fable is enough to tell of this. So Buddha is having his morning walk, and some hunter shoots an arrow at a pigeon, and the pigeon gets hurt and falls at the Buddha's feet. And the Buddha picks him up, and the shooter comes to him and says, "I shot him down. He's my catch. Give him to me." The Buddha says, "No, I won't give him to you." The shooter says, but that's against the law. I am entitled, as per the law of the land, to make a living by killing living beings, birds, animals, and selling their flesh. The Buddha says, compassion is higher than justice. The life of an innocent being is higher than the law of any land. So that's Buddha. For him, compassion is above everything else. First characteristic was that he was quite well read, so that's about knowledge. Second was about curiosity and perceptiveness, attentiveness. Now, this third characteristic is compassion. Then you come to the fourth characteristic. The fourth characteristic is Buddha was all set to be the king. He was already the crown prince. So, power, pelf, money, they all awaited him. Equally, he had a beautiful wife and a baby as well. So, charm of the other gender, as well as familial attractions, attachments, bondages, they were all there for him. But he refused all of them. So that's the next characteristic. He won't be someone who would fall for money or beauty of the usual mortal kind, or attachments. He would be someone who would, without much thought, without much inner strife, put knowledge and realization above attachment and pleasure. So he was able to quit the pleasurable and welcoming life that lie in store for him. And he just left his palace one silent night in pursuit of the real meaning of existence. So that's the next characteristic. He would be a detached person. You could equally say he would be in deep love with realization. And he would not be someone who can be bought off. Money and charm, attachment and sex and tradition, these would have very little impact on him. And then he goes to the jungle, and for more than a decade he wanders there. He moves from place to place, person to person, teacher to teacher, trying to know, understand, and he questions them and he learns from them. But he is never satiated. So he keeps moving on. He goes to the next person, and that's the next characteristic. He would have a deep, unending desire to reach to the ultimate knowledge. He would not just lazily conclude and stop at any one point. He would have a complete inner honesty. He would not say, now I have certain conclusions, certain beliefs, and therefore I can stop. Why pressurize oneself more? Why exert so much? Why take more pains? No, he would continue his journey till he is honestly convinced that he has reached the end. Then the next characteristic. Once he knows, he decides to share. He does not merely keep the knowledge to himself. He does not say, oh, now I am personally enlightened and that's all. That's what I set out for. No, that's not his objective. Personal things are for selfish people. Therefore, even to stop at personal realization is a selfish act. Now, He starts meeting people. He travels from place to place. He was traveling earlier as well, but he was traveling mostly to hermits and ascetics within the jungle. Now he travels from village to village, from one city to the other, and he meets people of all kinds, ordinary folks, businessmen, as well as certain kings. And he preaches his dhamma. And then we see another facet of the Buddha's being. Now he realizes that preaching the dhamma is very, very important, because in the Vedic religion of his time, we are talking of the 5th and 6th century BC, a lot of misinterpretations and impurities had crept in. So the Buddha decides that the real essence of religion has to be brought to the people, because remember, one of his central characteristics is compassion. He cannot see people suffering. And when in an age religion gets distorted, then people suffer endlessly, because religion itself is the only possible antidote to suffering. When that antidote itself fails and gets corrupted, then what will save the common folk? So Buddha decides to propagate his religion, and he proves to be a great publicist. And his desire to publicize, to propagate, is not coming from any personal center. His personal self he has already conquered, or you could say extinguished. That's the meaning of nirvana, to extinguish. The personal self is already gone. But he moves from this place to that place and raises an entire organization. The Buddha Sangha was a marvel of its own kind. Not that he wanted to have some kind of entrepreneurial zeal or act. It's just that it was needed. It was an organization raised not out of the need to expand your personal self and ambition, but an organization that was the imperative of its time. You needed that so that the people could be saved. So that's the next characteristic. He would be a very practical man. When he needed to quit the kingdom and go to the jungle, he did that. And when he needed to raise an organization, he was equally deft at that. So much so that he left Buddhism at a place where it was poised to become the dominant religion of the land. So these are the characteristics, the core characteristics of the Buddha. Obviously, today's Buddha, as you said, would not walk barefooted. And he would not need to probably walk. We have better technologies to carry us from one place to the other now. He would probably not go village to village. We have better technologies to make us, help us reach out to people. But the core traits will remain the same. And we have been able to enlist some 7, 8 or probably 10 core traits. These core traits will remain the same. A very, very sharp and curious mind, deep compassion, detachment, not attracted, allured by money, power, family, a deep desire to cleanse religion. And then paying the price for a long time in the jungle, displaying a lot of patience. And after that, emerging into public life, social life again, and raising a great organization that was able to meet the compassionate objectives. So today again you will find these traits in the Buddha. And you need not have only one Buddha. The fact is, today we need hundreds of Buddhas. These are not traits that should remain the privilege of a select few. The traits we talked of are needed to be displayed by hundreds of people, hundreds of youngsters, like you people. Remember, the Buddha was in his 20s when he was thinking, when he was meditating, when he was analyzing, when he was wondering, and when he was partaking in the suffering of entire mankind. When he was wondering, why does pure religion become so corrupted? And when he had the guts to take up a humongous challenge, he said, I will cleanse religion. Religion has become so polluted, so corrupted, so misinterpreted. I will bring out the real essence of religion. And all this in his 20s. 20s when most people are just prisoners and slaves of their bodily instincts and their inner illusions. That's when he decided to act. And then he remains silent and invisible and dormant for more than a decade. And then he explodes. Then he's all over the place. The northern plains are all reverberating with his message, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. So that's the kind of mind and that's the kind of personality we need today. Right?
Thank you for answering my question, sir. Well understood.